Welcome back, happy hookers. Today we're going to be learning how to make this lovely crochet basket. Now the beautiful thing about this is if you pick a yarn that's got a little bit of weight to it, it will be a very easy sort of self-standing, can you see that, absolutely props itself up basket. It also, the way that we stitch it means that the bottom actually curves inwards rather than outwards, so that it creates a really sturdy flat base and it doesn't wobble about. So I would say this is an advanced beginner method. We're going to be creating a flat circle using half double crochets. We're going to be stitching into the back loop of the half double crochet, which is the third loop half double crochet, or known as the camel stitch. And then we're going to be using a stitch called the mini bean stitch. We're also going to be learning how to edge using the using the crab stitch or the reverse single crochet. Now you don't need to do the reverse single crochet, you can simply just finish with a single, but there are a couple of new stitches. I will take this nice and slow for those that are new to crochet, so let's get started. The yarn I'm using today is by Bernat, and I believe it is the Bernat Homemaker. Now I live in the UK and this was quite difficult to source, and it did cost me a little bit extra on postage, but I do think it's worth it. And the beauty of this is it's a knitted, if I show you close up, as you can see, it's a knitted tube which creates a really nice sturdy stitch. I'm pairing this with a 6mm hook. It doesn't give me the tightest of stitches. I do think you could use a 5, but what I do find is it makes it incredibly easy to crochet. It doesn't cause me any wrist pain because it's quite tough and sturdy. Can't say my words this morning. However, I think any reasonable sort of chunky weight yarn paired with a 5 or 6, or if you have some Bernat Homemaker, or equally some of the ribbon thread, which is sort of like the t-shirt strips, the jersey material, would work absolutely fine as well. So to get started with your flat circle using a half double crochet, we're going to start with the magic circle. Now I take my tail end of my yarn over my fingers like this and bring it over the front like that. I bring it around the back parallel, but when I get to the front I actually cross it over to the left, pinching it with my ring finger. Now using your hook, you want to go under this first one, the one at the bottom, and pick up the one at the back. Now the best way is to pick it up is to spin your hook around so that you can pull it through the groove of your fingers, just letting it slide through that ring finger until you have a loop here. You're then going to spin your hook around so that you've created, can you see that crisscross and that teardrop shape? Now make sure you've got a little bit of room in this, enough room so that you can quite easily pull your hook through, because what you're then going to do, and it's sometimes easier to hold this on with your finger like this, is you're going to pick up that back piece of yarn again, spin it around and then pull. Can you see? We're pulling it through that loop there, and now what you can do is you can release your fingers, and what you have essentially created is a slip stitch around your magic ring. So when we use the half double crochet to stitch a flat circle, I generally start with 8. So we're going to place 8 half double crochets into this ring. So with the half double crochet, we always yarn over first, and then we insert our hook into the center, yarning over and pulling back through so that we've got 3 loops on our hook. And if it's easier with this, what I tend to do is sort of pinch it together and hold it, and so I can complete my stitch with my left hand. Very similar to the double crochet, the half double crochet, but instead we're going to close the stitch in 1 by yarning over and pulling through all 3 like so. So we yarn over first, insert into our work, pulling back through so that we've got 3 stitches, and then we're going to yarn over and pull through. So let's keep doing that together. So you've got 8 stitches in the center of your magic circle. So yarning over, inserting, pulling back through, and then yarning over and pulling through all 3 stitches. If you're a little bit more advanced, you might find that you want to simply pick your yarn up with your hook like so. You see how I'm picking that up and pulling it through like this, as opposed to physically wrapping it round as if I were knitting. I'm just going to check how many I've got. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Wonderful, you need 1 more. And then the magic bit of the magic circle. So pull your loop quite long so that you can comfortably take it out. And then what you're going to do is you're going to locate, mine looks like a little half moon, you're going to locate your end and you're going to pull it very slowly like so. And can you see as I drop it, what's happened is it's pulled that nice and tight. Now I don't necessarily pull it too tight at this point. I generally give it an extra pull at after the second round, because what I don't want to do is kind of crush these stitches too much at this point, because it makes it harder for me to see the next few stitches that I'm going to be working into. So if you've ever done a flat circle before, you'll know that the second round we always double the amount of stitches in the first, and the reasoning behind that is we have 8 stitches in our centre. Every round we work, we will always increase by 8 stitches. That's a hard and fast rule, always increase by 8. And because we've only got 8 here, and we need 16 then, if we're going to increase by 8, that means we're going to place 2 half double crochets in every stitch. So making sure we're not picking up our tail, because I have started crocheting with my tail, especially if it's quite long. We're going to yarn over and we're going to identify that first stitch. If you're having trouble identifying that first stitch, simply count back 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Okay, here it is. Or you might prefer to start using stitch markers. You're going to yarn over, you're going to insert your hook, can you see? I'll make sure that focuses, into that first stitch. Yarn over, pull through, yarn over through all 3. Okay? Yarn over, insert into the same space. So look where that hook, that stitch is going to here. Can you see? We're going to go straight into the same place. And there we go. We've popped 2 half double crochets into the same stitch. And you're going to work all the way around, placing 2 half double crochets into every stitch until you get back round to the beginning. And if you need to count, that helps, because this is where you are going to think, oh, actually, do I know exactly where that beginning is? Now, a couple of things you could do is you could grab a stitch marker as I look around. Let's get a stitch marker. If you don't have stitch markers, just use, you know, an alternate colour of thread. Anything really. I use these, can't remember the make. I've got a link in the description to these, as I do find them some of the best that I've ever used. So 2, I know that I've put 2 and 2, so I'm going to pop it into this one here, so I know which stitch is exactly the last, that's the last stitch of my round. So I know that I'll need to take this out and stitch into here. Okay, so we've placed 2, 4, so into the next one we'll place 2 half double crochets. And then into the next one. So yarn over, insert, yarn over 3 loops on the hook, yarn over, pull through all 3. I encourage you, if you're new to circular crochet, to regularly count. Just double check that you are placing 2 in every stitch. It can be very easy to skip one or double up. Okay, so I'm going to do a quick count in case you're a little bit You're not as far along as me, which is absolutely fine. Take it at your own pace. It's not a competition. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Okay, 13, 14, 15, 16. We're ready to go. So I've got 2 more stitches to place 2 half double crochets into. Okay, so that's my penultimate 2. Take my stitch marker out. If it helps, you can pop it straight into the next stitch so that you know where your joining stitch is. Place 2 half double crochets into the next stitch, like so. Wonderful. Now there's a couple of options here. I didn't choose to join on the first round because I don't think it always necessarily makes much difference. However, I think on this round it's probably going to be a little bit easier if we join it so that we're used to joined rounds, so that when we get to the end we're joining. So all we're simply going to do now is we're going to slip stitch by inserting our hook, pulling through and pulling straight through the stitch like so, and there we've joined the round. At this point we can give this really, there you go, really tight. Can you see that's just dramatically closed that centerpiece up? Wonderful. So we're on to round 3. This basket, which is the smaller of one, only has 4 rounds, so we've only got 2 more to go. So we're on to the 3rd round. Because we need to increase by 8, what we're going to do on this round is we're going to place 1 half double crochet in the first stitch, 2 in the next stitch, and we're going to repeat that pattern, 1 and then 2 in the next stitch. So we're taking a section of 2 and we're turning it into a section of 3. So we're going to chain 1, we're going to ignore that chain 1 because we're not going to use that as a stitch. We're going to place our stitch marker into the stitch, into our slip stitch, which was our last stitch of the round. There we go. So that was the slip stitch. I've chained 1 out of that, and then into the next stitch here I'm going to place 1 half double crochet, and then we're going to place 2 half double crochets into the next stitch. So going straight back into the same place like so. Then I'm going to place 1 in the next one, and if it helps to count, you know, 1 and then 2, 3, with 2, 3 always being in the same stitch, or it helps to just keep counting single, double, single, double, single, double. So single, double, and I'm not talking about the names of stitches, this is always the half double crochet, but it means the number of stitches. So a single stitch, 2 stitches, a double. So single and then a double, 2 stitches, always using the half double crochet. And as you can see with this yarn, this is a really, really quick make, because it absolutely is so lovely and so chunky and extremely sturdy, like I mentioned. So it's really perfect for anything that you want to retain its shape. So I'm onto a single half double crochet, a solo if you like, and then this is the one I'm going to place 2 into, like so. Okay, and I know that I've got, can you see, 1, 2, 3, 4 stitches left, which is great because it's a single, a double, a single and a double. So 1 half double crochet into this one, 2 half double crochet into the next one, 1 half double crochet into the next one, and then a little bit more yarn, and then I think we're ready to take our stitch marker out and place 2, 1, 2, like so. Wonderful. And then we're going to slip stitch into this next stitch, not this teeny weeny one here, because this is our chain. Can you remember we ignore this? So we're going to insert our hook into this one. I've actually picked up too many. There we go, just the 2 loops on the top. We're going to yarn through that, yarn straight through the one on our hook, and there we have completed round 3. So round 4, this is our last round of the base of our basket. Chain 1. I'm going to pop my stitch marker into that last stitch there, not the chain 1, the stitch the chain 1 came out of. So for this we follow a very similar pattern, always going to be increasing by 8, but in between our increases, instead of only placing 1 half double crochet, we're going to place 2 half double crochets. So we're going to do half double crochet in this one, half double crochet in this one, and then 2 in this one. So on every round, essentially you're always increasing the number of single half double crochets, if that makes sense, because this time we want to take a group of 3, turn it into a group of 4, and if you're familiar with maths you'll see obviously how that multiplication is working. So let's place our first half double crochet into our first stitch, another half double crochet into our second stitch, and then in our third one we're going to place 2. So we're going to place 1 half double crochet and go straight back into the same place for another half double crochet like so. So 1 half double crochet in the next stitch, 1 half double crochet in the next stitch. Thumbs up the video if I've said half double crochet more than 50 times yet in the video. This is the one we're placing 2 into. Okay, so just a stitch and an increase, stitch, a stitch and an increase. Nice and simple. And the half double crochet is such a lovely stitch for circles. Don't get me wrong, I love a double crochet flat circle, but I like the half double crochet. In fact, I always say it's one of my favourite stitches because it's got a really tight fabric. You know, there isn't the gaps that you get with the double, but equally you get a little bit more height and a little bit more bulk, and it's such a lovely stitch to do. Oh, I missed then. If anyone's interested, these hooks, although not necessarily the prettiest, these Clover Soft Touch, I've used them for, I'm going to say a long time. I'm not going to reveal how long, but yes, I would say definitely more than 10 and a little bit less than 20 years. So that just puts it into perspective. Okay, so I'm just going to have a quick scan. It's always good to see if you can look back at your stitches and identify your doubles. I can see here, because I've got 2 stems, can you see, going to the same place, that was definitely a double. Single, single. Here's another double. Can you see the 2 stems, one there and one there going into the same. Always good to keep on track. So I know I'm ready to do my increase here. So increase. I'm going nice and slow so we can crochet along together. I'm quite surprised the cat hasn't turned up. Oh, Moomin is fast asleep in the chair behind me. Sorry guys, not today. But it is going to be quite a long video, so there's still time for her to come and eat my yarn. I love hearing your stories of how you also have mischievous little fur balls that come along and steal your yarn. So if there's anybody new watching and you also have cats or dogs or guinea pigs or anything that thinks when you start crocheting that it's playtime, please do let me know. It's such a hilarious sort of common challenge that we all face, but I'm sure we secretly love it. We secretly love them, obviously. I can't say we secretly love them eating our yarn, but as long as there isn't too much impact, it's all a little bit of harmless fun, isn't it? Okay, let's have another look. Double, single, single. I actually missed a stitch, can you see? And this is because I got talking about cats. This is why it's quite easy, and I didn't plan this. I didn't plan it as a demonstration, but can you see I've got a double here, and then I've got a single, and then I've done another 2 singles. So if I go back to this stitch, which I know should have been a double, and I just pop one more in there, it will keep me back on track. Perfect. So single, single, increase. Hope you're all making some beautiful basket bases. Okay, 3 stitches left. That's always a good sign. 1, 2, 3. Oh, if I could show you the camera instead of wandering off here. 3 stitches left. 1 with my stitch marker, 2, 3. So 1 stitch, increase. Perfect. And if I'd have got to here without realising that I'd skipped ahead, this wouldn't match up. And if you find that, then yes, just use that technique to scan back looking at the stitches, and you will be able to very easily work out. I think a lot easier with this yarn, certainly, dependent on what type of yarn you're using. It's not always the easiest to identify your stitches, and certainly for using a black yarn, that can be quite tricky. If I'm using a black yarn and I'm making something that I need a 6, I actually have a light up crochet hook, which is amazing. Honestly, I thought it was a little bit of a gimmick, but it really, really does help just to have a little bit of light in that area to see where you're going. Okay, slip stitch time. Ignore the teeny weeny little chain there. Insert into the first one. Pull through, and there you have your half double crochet base. Now if you'd like to make a slightly larger basket, what I'm going to do is give you the steps at this point to make your circle larger. It will mean that as you crochet the sides with us, we're going to be finishing the video a little bit early because you're going to have more to do. But because the pattern is so repetitive, it should not be an issue in terms of stopping the video and then picking up again at the end. So this is 4 rounds, 8, 16, 24, 32. So this is a circle of 32. If you wanted to make a set of stacking baskets, I would do 2 more rounds. So that would take it to 48. If you wanted to make a bigger one than that, I would make 4 more rounds than this, which would take it to 64. And what I will do is I will pop a card up now with the explanations of the bases for small, medium and large, the number of rounds, the number of stitches, and also the pattern of how many singles and how many increases. Okay, so that's going to be going up now. Take a screenshot. Perfect, and then you can refer back to it. I will do exactly the same for the sides so that you can understand how many of the bean stitches you're going to need. Perfect. So it's now time to turn, and by turn I mean we're going to be creating our corners, if you like. Think of this as a corner, our turnaround, and our very first row here is actually round here is a half double crochet. So we're going to chain 1, and we're actually going to turn the circle around so that we have the back of it facing towards us. And what you'll see is along here it looks exactly like the top of a row, interestingly, but on the side and on here this also looks exactly like the top of a row. And that's because the half double crochet has this 3rd loop. So can you see, it's almost like whichever way you look at it, you have a top. So think of this as the first, this is the second, your front and back, and this here as your third loop. And that is exactly what we are going to be crocheting into. We are only going to be crocheting into this third loop here. Okay, so let me just adjust. So this is the first stitch. Because we've turned, we need to make sure that we can see where that third loop of that one is, and that's actually down here, this little snug one here. So I want you to make sure that you're definitely going into the right stitch. So it's not this one here which looks nice and easy, it's actually this one here, down here, you see. So we're going to yarn over, these are all going to be half double crochets, and we're going to go in. Now this one's going to be a little bit tight, so I'm actually going to pull it. Can you see? I've actually pulled it tight because we are crocheting back along where we came out of. So I'm going to insert my hook there, yarn over, pull through, and we've created a half double crochet. So take your time. Basically, imagine this just looks like a normal row of stitches and you're going into the front loops. You are actually going into the third loop on the back of the half double crochet, but it's just this one here. Okay, and you're just going to place one half double crochet in every stitch. There's no increases, there's no nothing. One half double crochet into the back loop, the third loop, so this one here, in every stitch. Nice and simple. And if you have made sure you've caught that first stitch, what you will end up with, it will be a round of 32, because we have 32 stitches that we are going into. If you've made a 48 or a 64 base, again you should just have a corresponding number of half double crochets. And a bit more yarn there. Okay, one half double crochet in every stitch. And what we'll start to see is, if I squash it and pop it, can you see? There you go. It's created this nice little ridge, making my base making my base stand up, because it forces a little bit of a curve inwards, and we've got our stitches along the side. So lovely. We're just going to carry on with our half double crochets. And thank you ever so much for suggesting baskets. This definitely came from a poll that I put on YouTube, possibly at the end of last year or some point in January. And I've wanted to make baskets for so long. They're so useful. Certainly for me, I find there's always something you can pop in a basket, whether it's on your dressing table, whether you want to place, you know, a little plant pot inside this. That would look quite nice. Yeah, I mean, you could possibly put a candle in it. I wouldn't recommend burning the candle in it from a fire hazard perspective, but certainly in terms of if it's simply decorative, that would look particularly nice. I just need a little bit more yarn. This ball, I mean, I'm hoping that this ball is going to yield quite a few baskets, because it's certainly quite a lot of yarn. If you're ever unsure how much yarn you've used, a little trick is, say this ball was, I don't know, 300 gram. All you need to do is pop your basket on some kitchen scales, and say I pop this basket on this kitchen scales and this basket comes out at 75 gram. I know exactly how many I can get out of my ball of wool. You can also work out your yardage or your length, because the ball will tell you weight and length. So you can you can then calculate, if you've got the weight of your basket, you can equally calculate how much yarn you've used to make it. Handy little tip there. If you're ever trying to work out how much you need, if you're planning on making, you know, I need to make 10 baskets, but I don't actually know how much yarn I'm going to need. Handy little tip there. Obviously you need to allow for things like your hook size, if you've used a certain amount. Okay, I'm nearly back at the end. This is where I'm going to make sure I've got a count up of my stitches. I recommend you do exactly the same. This first one here, don't worry, it looks like it's slipped a bit, but it hasn't. It's just the way that it's come out. It's a little bit, this bit took it round. So 1, 2, I'm going to count in twos. 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 16. 18, 20, 22, 24, 26, 28, 30, 32. The reason I chose to count is because it can be quite tempting to think, oh look, I've got this big space here that I need to fill. We are making sides. Look at that. We need to make sure that our sides are nice and straight. If we were to put another stitch in here and then join, our sides could potentially do this a little bit. I know it's only one stitch, but that one stitch, when it's then exaggerated over subsequent rounds, definitely makes a difference. So definitely count. So you're then going to locate, which you can see is here, my first stitch, and I'm going to slip stitch into that first stitch and pull that tight, and then take a look. You see that's pulled that together very nicely so that we're not going to have any problems with the sides. Okay, so we're going to chain 1 and then we're going to turn, and this is the last time we're going to turn. We turn between the base and the first row of half double crochets, and then we turn again for this one so that we're back to the right side facing us. And don't think about it as this facing us now, think about it as the sides facing us, because this is how we're going to be crocheting around. Okay, so now it's time to do the mini bean stitch. Now the mini bean stitch, we're going to do 16 of these because we are going to place one in every other stitch. And the top of the mini bean stitch actually kind of creates 2 stitches in itself. So the way that you're going to do this is you're going to insert your hook not into this first stitch here, you're going to insert your hook into this second stitch here, and we're not using this loop here, just look at the top, can you see? We've got a nice set of normal stitches. Now they might be slightly tilted inwards, which is why you might be tempted to think, oh, this is the top of the stitch. No, make sure you're definitely picking up the 2 here, not the third loop. You know, we've just done third loops. We definitely want the top 2 here, like so. So you're going to insert your hook, yarn over and pull through, which gives you 2 loops on your hook. You're going to yarn over, insert your hook and yarn over and pull through, and that's going to give you 4 loops on your hook, and you're going to yarn over and pull through all 4. You're then going to create a chain. Okay, so I'll show you that one more time. I'm going to skip the next stitch. I'm going to place a mini bean in the next. So we insert without yarning over. So the first step is insert, yarn over, pull through, 2 loops. Second stage, yarn over, insert, pull through, 4 loops on the hook. Yarn over, pull through all 4, chain 1, skip a stitch, insert your hook, yarn over, pull back through, 2 loops on the hook, yarn over, insert, yarn over, pull back through, 4 loops on the hook, yarn over, pull through all 4, chain 1, skip a stitch. Yeah, so you're always going in first without yarning over, then we're yarning over, inserting and pulling back through to create 4 loops, and then closing with that final chain. Okay, so insert, pull back through, yarn over, insert, pull back through, yarn over through all 4, chain 1, skip a stitch, insert, yarn over, insert, gives us 4. And once you've got this rhythm down, you know, you'll find that this is a really lovely stitch, definitely in terms of, I find sometimes all the bobble stitches, the popcorn and the puff can be quite taxing, hard, can make your wrist hurt, whereas I find that this mini bean has got just the right amount of detail and texture without being one of those ones where you end up with 10 loops and on your hook and you're trying to pull through them all and splitting stitches and all those lovely challenges that are thrown at crocheters. Okay, so skipping a stitch, insert, yarn over, pull back through, yarn over, insert, yarn over, pull back through, 4 loops, close, chain 1, skip a stitch and do exactly the same so that you've got, don't forget to do that all important chain at the end. I always end up wanting to yarn over to start with because my brain's been so sort of socialized with we're starting with a half double crochet, so make sure it's always you know, you're not yarning over when you're first going in. If you did that, you would know, because you would end up with 5 stitches on your hook. I mean, essentially, yes, if you yarned over and you pulled back through, you're going to yarn over again. Look, you're going to yarn over and pull back through. Suddenly we've got 5. It's going to make a bulkier stitch. I mean, yes, it's a pattern. Yes, you could do that if you wanted to. I mean, vary the pattern. I like the mini bean because it gives me a little bit of space. If you did 5, you're just going to end up with a slightly bulkier one. If anybody does make the stacking baskets before I've managed to make the stacking baskets, please do tag me on Instagram, Crochet and Tea. I've had so many people tag me in their stories or send me pictures of their coasters from the 12 days of crochet coasters that it's just been overwhelming in a good way. Like, just to see how pleased people are from sort of just having picked up a crochet hook to creating some and there's just some beautiful beautiful coasters out there that people have made, just really lovely. So thank you for that. It's just been amazing to see what we've built over the last few months. So I'm back round to the beginning, and now I'm going to do a count up to see that I'm on track with the amount of beans that I have. Jack and his magic beans. Okay, so we've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. Yay, that's exactly how many I need. So these are joined rounds in that we are going to slip stitch to close the round and start again, but what they are not is turned rounds. So we will be joining and then we will be carrying on. Because remember what I said, what you want is you want your stitches to always be the right side facing outside of the basket. So the way we're going to slip stitch here, can you see we've got this first bean and we've got 1 stitch to this side of it, which is kind of where these are angled here. You've got 1 stitch at the top and then we've got 1 little bit at the side here. Yeah, we're going to slip stitch in to that side bit there, to the bit on the right, like so, and then we're going to chain 1. Yep. Then we're going to hop over and we're going to place our beans. Now I like to place my beans into, so can you see we're going to place our beans in between the stitches here, but we've got two options. We can either place it under the stitch that looks like it's more attached to the right, or the stitch that's more attached to the left hand one, and these two tops are only separated by one strand. My preference is to go into this one here every time. You may find you prefer going into here. It isn't going to make a dramatic amount of difference. So if I were to, have we chained one? Yes, we've chained one. If I were to go into this one here, put my mini bean in and my single crochet, can you see by the time it's filled up the space? And that's probably why I like to go into the right hand one, because I know that it's actually going to fill up quite a lot of this space anyway. So I would encourage you, if you find it relatively easy, to go in the right hand one rather than going into the next stitch along. You know what I mean? Hope that makes sense. So I'll be skipping this one and I'll be going into this one, but I'm not going into the top of the stitch there. That's the important thing. I'm actually going into kind of the hole that it's created at the side of the stitch, simply for ease. And I do think that this is slightly the bigger area anyway. So insert, yarn over, pull back through, yarn over, insert for 4, close the stitch, and there we go. Can we see our beans? They're nicely going into in between the ones from the previous row. So insert, and I'm going to show you once again, I'm going into the space at the side at the left of the bean. And if you're crocheting into spaces, it's just a dream. I think that's why the granny square is so popular and such a great beginner one, because who doesn't love a project where you're only crocheting into spaces? Okay, what I need to do now is grab me a little bit more yarn, and then we're going to carry on. Don't forget to make sure you're doing that chain at the end. So you're inserting 2 loops, yarn over, pull back through 4 loops, yarn over, pull through, and the chain. Going in to that space and creating these mini beans are lovely. I have a pattern on my website actually for a scarf. I'm not sure if it's an infinity scarf or it's in a normal scarf. It's definitely not a snood, it is a scarf, because it's quite long, that uses the mini bean stitch, and it just adds, I mean, I've done it in a lot lighter, looser yarn, so it's certainly very drapey and soft and squishy, the big squeeze, but yeah, it just adds a lovely texture, and it's a great stitch for if you're looking to work in panels and create patterns, panels of patterns, yes, that would be right, not panels of patterns, yes, panels of patterns. Yes, it works really well. Oh, a tongue twister there. Panels of patterns. I'm ready for a tea. I don't know about you. We've been crocheting for, well, I've been crocheting for 45 minutes on this tutorial, so now is maybe the time for a short tea interlude. I did wonder whether or not, I see so many videos of people doing clips of themselves making tea, and if you're into, you know, ASMR and you love to hear the sounds of things, then why not? But I kind of feel like if you're crocheting, you don't really want to suddenly stop to see me pouring some tea, so maybe I'll pop the tea making montage in the end of the clips. I've paused here because I can tell that we're back round at the beginning, and I don't want you to be scared that there's suddenly a whole jumble of stitches here and that you're thinking, whoa, where on earth am I supposed to put my mini bean? So as always, what we're going to do, we're going to count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. Okay, so we know that we need to place one more mini bean, and we know that we're going to be joining here. We're going to be joining into this stitch here so that we can start our bean here. So what we're going to do is we're simply going to carry on the pattern the way that we would have done before by placing our next bean into the hole to the left of this bean. Now this hole's going to be a little bit larger, and it's going to be bridged with this cheeky little chain and slip stitch here from the join. Do not fear, simply carry on, pop your hook in. Okay, let's get our mini bean done there, and our chain 1. Now that's nicely bridged all of that beautifully. So here's the bean on this side. We see that 2 stitches. Imagine like a little house. There we go, a little roof. Right hand side of the roof, that is where our slip stitch is going to go. Okay, and what this does is it doesn't carry the join in a straight line. What it does is it sort of weaves the join in diagonally as we go around, which I think helps to disguise the join a lot better than if it were straight up like this. So now that we're here, we're going to chain 1, and then we're going to hop straight over here. Can you see? Now you might decide, oh okay, I'm going to pop a stitch marker in. This isn't the place to pop the stitch marker in. We need to get our first bean created. So insert and create your first bean in that space to the left of the stitch. I would also create another one. So go to the left of the bean, insert another stitch, and then look at the previous one, right hand side, left hand side. This is the bit that you'll be joining next time. So you might decide, okay, put my stitch marker in there, know exactly where I'm joining next time. Wonderful. In fact, I know that my last stitch is going to be here because I need it to be in this last one of this last round. So my last bean's going to go in there. That's where I'm going to slip stitch. Takes away any confusion, because I accept that, look, I mean, I've got, that's a chain, that's a slip. Do you know what I mean? There's a lot going on. So all you need to make sure is that, 1, it looks reasonably neat with the join. 2, the sides are continuing to be relatively straight. They're not going in massively or out massively, which is what would happen if we missed a bean, or if we skipped a bean, or we, you know, we joined a little bit too later, and we put extra stitches in. Okay, so next one, let's go. Let's pop some mini beans into, and this is the third row. I would say row in the circle. It's a round. The third round, joined rounds of the mini bean. And I'm trying to think. Oh, and I missed my my chain then. I'm trying to think how many rows I did. Let's have a look. I think I did 4 rows of the mini bean for, I'm just going to get myself some more yarn. 4 rows of the mini bean for my basket. 1, 2, 3, yes I did 4 rows, and imagine the height of another one for the finish. I mean, yes, you could have taken this certainly a lot taller. You could keep it this small size and do it taller, which would be a lovely sort of jar cover or pen pot dimensions would work very well. But we'll do the 4 for now, otherwise the video will be about 3 hours long, and I don't want you all to feel you know, that it's a beast of a tutorial. I mean, I do like longer tutorials, but I'm conscious that certainly there's a lot of the crochet and tea community are beginners. I don't want people to feel like a video that's over an hour long is going to be unachievable. The beauty of this is you can choose to do the base and then take a pause, and then we do the sides. You know, this is something that can be very easily picked up in stages, and I do always put the time, not just the timestamps in the description, but I put them in the description such a way that it will have populated the chapters along that bar, so that you can quite easily hop to and see, you know, the sides, the base, the edging, etc. Okay, I'm nearly at the end of round 3. If you're not, don't worry. Just, you know, pause now and then, because we're nearly back at the join. I don't like to crochet too quickly so that it's not clear what I'm doing and that I end up much further along the pattern, because pausing videos can take the enjoyment away out of them. But I do recognise that it's not always possible to be exactly on the same time as each other. So this would suggest, having done my last bean here, that I'm ready to join. I am just going to double check. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. Wonderful. 16 is our magic number of the day. I've got a little bit of a frog in my throat. Let's have some tea. Oh, this is cold tea. Ooh. Who drinks cold tea? I mean, not like iced tea, but pardon me, an actual cup of tea that you've made and has gone cold. Yeah, let me know in the description. I'm not sure I'm a fan of it. So I've joined with my slip stitch. I'm going to create a chain of 1, and then I'm going to pop my first bean straight into the left hand space of this bean here. I'm going to pop my stitch marker in now, because I can see this here. Can you see? I know it's not angled like the house, but we've got one here attached to this, and I know it's this one here that will be my joining of the next one. So straight to the left of the next bean, we're on to the final round of beans. And that is probably when I will take my break to make my cup of tea. I got confused, thought I was doing there. There we go, 4. Okay. I might have some carrot cake tea. Yeah, it's a bird and blend tea. I'm not sure if you've watched my crochet podcast, but the first one I do go into quite a lot of detail about the bird and blend loose teas, and they do a carrot cake one, which is very much sort of the spices of the various different things that go into a carrot cake, and it is very nice. It's also a rooibos tea, a red bush tea, which means it's caffeine free, which is perfect if you don't like a lot of caffeine. I'm quite lucky in that I can drink a lot of caffeine and it doesn't affect me. Having built, I suppose it's just a tolerance to it. Oh, I love these bean stitches. I'm going to, whatever we do next, can we vote that we use the bean stitch again? I mean, you may have thought it's the worst stitch in the world. Comment below, never show me the bean stitch again, Chrissy, and I will definitely take that into consideration. Or if you love the bean stitch, obviously I'd love it if you were to give me a little thumbs up, because I want to show you something here. I've made a mistake. Can you see this? There's only one option and one place to go. There's no divide between the 2 stitches. And you know why that is? That is because I have missed the chain when I've closed the stitch. Now, it's not the end of the world. It really isn't the end of the world. Yeah? Because of the way that our pattern is made up. Because if I pop this in here like so, making sure I do my chain, and I go to the next one, which is fine, and I pop that in there. Can you see? It doesn't make a huge difference, really. I mean, it's going to probably make it small, you know, this round's going to be short about what, 2-3 millimeters at most, which isn't going to rock the world. It also isn't imperative because we're going stitch by stitch by stitch with such a small pattern that you're even going to notice it. So I like to demonstrate those weaknesses, not because I feel that, you know, as someone that's creating video tutorials for others, I should definitely have it absolutely perfect. I do it because this channel is about recognising that rules to crochet and mistakes made in crochet really don't matter. What matters is you had a great time, you made something that you're proud of, that's beautiful or useful. That's my 2 key things. And that's it. So how you hold your hook, how you hold your yarn, whether you missed a stitch and you think, oh, just put a couple in there, no one will notice. Oh yes, we've all been there, we've all done that. So do not worry at all. There are some mistakes that, yes, you want to go back and fix. For example, when I knew that I'd missed my increase, because I wanted to make sure that, you know, I'd got that circle and I ended up with the right number at the end. But beyond that, with something like this bean stitch, I mean, are you really going to see that I didn't put that final chain in that stitch? No. Okay, we're back at the beginning after that little motivational, happy little accidents. Is anyone familiar with Bob Ross? I'm a big painter, can I just say. I'm even contemplating starting another channel with some watercolour tutorials. If anybody else does painting, let me know below. And what sort of things you like to paint, what mediums you like, because yeah, really, really nice hobby I find. Back at the beginning, I'm going to count. I'm 100% confident that there's 16, but let's just do it. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. Wonderful. Let's join. Okay, slip stitch, and we are complete. And now is the time for me to go and grab a quick cup of tea. But I'll be back in what will feel like 1 second to you. So now we're on to our final round, and I just want to say that everything I said before about not worrying if you miss that chain stitch is only applicable to every round bar the last round, because in the last round we will be placing a stitch in every stitch along the top. So we're going to be placing a single crochet in every stitch along the top. So for every bean we're going to want 2 single crochets. Now if you did accidentally miss one, you just need to make sure that you pay attention to the fact that you've missed one, and you make sure you put an extra single crochet in, so that you end up with, essentially all I need you to end up with is 32 single crochets by the end of this, so that it looks okay. So we're going to chain 1. I'm going to place a single crochet into the top of this stitch. Now, whereas I used to go into the space, I'm going to make sure I go into the actual top of the stitch this time. So the single crochet like so. This one is actually a gap, and this one, because this one here is, that's your chain that you did, so that's why it's going to be slightly smaller, but nonetheless, single crochet, single crochet, single crochet, and just keep placing a single crochet. I need a little bit more yarn. The reason we place a single crochet in the top is that I find that when you do the crab stitch, which we're going to have a go at after this, it's much easier if you can clearly see which stitch you're going into. Because these stitches, some of them are larger, some of them are bigger, what it's going to do is it's really going to help even out that foundation, if you like, for the top of your basket. It also has another important value, in that if you decide you don't like the style of the crab stitch, or you have a go, you feel frustrated, this is your first time doing it, and you simply want to have finished a basket and feel proud of it, there's nothing wrong in saying, do you know what, I quite like that, I'm going to leave it like that. It looks all right. Why not? I mean, really, why not? If you like what you ended up with, that's a bonus. If you don't like what you ended up with, don't be disheartened. We've all got cupboards of things we've made that never see the light of day again, believe you me. There's a lot of things that have been hidden away by myself. So just keep single crocheting all the way around until we get back to the beginning. Then I'm going to do a little quick count up, because I do like to encourage counting. You know, I think that mistakes are going to happen, happy little accidents. But I do think that if you count, you can prevent yourself when you get onto more complex patterns. Right, I'm round at the beginning, and I might not even need this last stitch that I've created. This is why I say to count. Okay, so I'm going to take that last stitch off actually. I'm going to take a look. Now the easiest way isn't to count from here and try and work out if that was my first stitch or not. I mean, I'm pretty sure this was my first stitch, this was my join, and this was my chain. Join, chain, first single crochet, yeah? Because it's got the 2 downward bars. Can you see? This has got 2 downward bars, but it's very tiny. Looks like a slip stitch. So count this way round. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17, 18, 19, 20, 21, 22, 23, 24, 25, 26, 27, 28, 29, 30. Okay, I've got 30 and I want 32. So we're going to place one more in here and one more in here. One more in this stitch here, and one more in our slip stitch. We're then going to slip stitch straight into this one here, which I identified as the first one of my round. And there we go. We have 32. So if you want, I mean, if you've done the bigger baskets, you'll have obviously 48 or 64, as I listed out on that screenshot earlier. So what we're going to do now is we're going to have a go at the crab stitch. I shouldn't laugh. It's absolutely easy. It's just a little bit of a mind mess, because we're all used to crocheting from the right to the left. And this time, I mean, unless you're left-handed. If you're left-handed, do you crochet from the left to the right? Maybe you do. Anyway, we're going to be crocheting backwards. Hence why it's called the crab stitch. Although crabs don't crochet backwards, they don't crochet at all. Crabs don't walk backwards, but they walk sideways. So anyway, let's get over it. So it's a single crochet. You're still going to be placing your hook into the stitch. You're still going to be yarning over and pulling back through. You're still going to end up with 2 loops on your hook, and you're still going to pull them through. But what you're going to do is we're going to do it this way. And you might think, oh, how on earth am I going to do it this way? So you're going to think of it as swinging your hook around like this and punching through from the front to the back. Okay, so I'm going to do the first one. Actually, I'm going to chain 1. so that I can do it in this first stitch here. So I'm going to go from the top to the bottom so that I can see my stitch, and I'm going to punch through, can you see? And I'm going to pick up my yarn and I'm going to pull it back through like so. And then I'm back up to normal positioning. Then I'm going to yarn over and I'm going to pull it back through. Like so. And you might think, oh, just leave it, don't worry about it. Imagine tipping it down again. Can you see this next stitch here? Front to back, pick the yarn up, pull it back through, flip round to the side like we normally would, yarn over. You'll start to see on the third one, I would say, a pattern. Okay, so spin it round, push it through, pick it up. Don't worry where this yarn is, just pick it up where it is and pull it back round like so, and yarn over. And there we go. Can you see what's starting to happen? You've got this sort of twisted, braided effect that it's making with the stitches. So you see, into this one here, pull it back through, yarn over, pull through. I mean, at this point you could go straight into the next one, pick it up, back around, yarn over, and it's creating, there you go, that twisting effect. Definitely took me a good few goes to feel comfortable, because it was a different way of thinking about my hook. It was always thinking about it being like this, and I move my hook more than I move anything else, because I use this pencil method I'm used to. So I'm going straight in to the top of that single crochet, picking it up, pulling it back through. Have a bit of a practice if you really want to on a test piece. Okay, so insert, and there you go. That is the crab stitch, which you can pick up a little bit of speed on, because you are actually ideally positioned more so than when you're single. I think when you're single crocheting a normal way is that, okay, I can go straight into this one now, pick up, pull through, spin round and down and into the next stitch. And you're nice and slow. So we're going from right to left, we're crocheting backwards. Run out of yarn already. Okay, so let's just keep doing that. So in from the front to the back, picking up the yarn, yarning over, pulling through two, picking up. So single crochet, just a little bit different way to hold the hook, and a much different effect. Like I say, you can just finish your basket. Struggling to think what it was then. The word I mean, not the fact that it's a basket. On the single crochet, it looks absolutely beautiful. Or why not stretch yourself? An opportunity to have a go at something exciting and new. I mean, if you are new to third loop, mini bean and crab stitch, I mean, wow, that's just nailed 3 new techniques in one basket, one sitting. I mean, that should be a pretty awesome achievement in itself, shouldn't it? How have I already run out of yarn? This is using quite a bit. It's using more than a traditional single crochet, because you can see, look, you've got quite long stitches. Okay, I've only got a couple more to do. So inserting my hook from the front to the back. Okay, one more to go and then we're back to the beginning. voila. It's the easiest way to fasten this off. My trusty scissors. Just to snip it off. Like so. And to pull it through. And then just to take this tail end round to the back and then stitch it like so. So it just holds, can you see? Just holds that last stitch in place, and we'll do that together now. So got my nice juicy big darning needles. These are from Amazon and these are brilliant. I know I talk about them a lot, but if there's probably a link to be a link to the UK Amazon, but you should be able to find it on your appropriate Amazon. So I'm going to turn it around and look at the inside, and I know that I'm probably going to want it about that tightness, so I'm simply going to pop it through my the first available loop that I can see, and I'm going to keep checking until I'm comfortable that that looks pretty seamless, like so. I'm going to turn that, and then I'm just going to weave in and out a few times like you would, just to make sure that you keep your stitches all nice and tight. I've actually split a stitch there, but do you know what, that's not that's not a problem, because it will actually give me a little bit of extra tension, I suppose, that going through the loops won't, by having split the stitch. Okay, I think I'm good. I'm quite happy with that. You can then weave your tail in, but for the purpose of this, I'm just going to cut it short, because I know that I'm going to be popping a plant pot in this one, so I don't mind that it's particularly longer. Obviously, if you're concerned about washing and things and popping them in the washing machine, you're going to want to make sure you secure them well. Some people like to put a little bit of super glue or something in there, whatever works for yourself, and whatever your your care habits, instructions are going to be in terms of washing. And there you have, thank you ever so much for staying with me on this bumper hour episode. There you have the small a small basket, which you can do a lovely series of stacking baskets. So this is the small one, and like I mentioned before, if you wanted to do a medium and a large, I mean not the biggest one, certainly not sort of a basket size that you could put a blanket in, but I mean you probably could size up significantly more than the three that I've put together. So thank you ever so much for joining. If you like this video, give it a thumbs up. Really, really helps, those thumbs up. As always, if you haven't noticed, I reply to every comment on my channel. Yeah, I'm pretty sure I've replied to every comment that's come, whether it's just a question. If you're struggling with the pattern, drop me a DM on Instagram. I don't pick them up quite as regularly, but even after a couple of days, I make sure I do check kind of all my messages, and I have responded to people who are having difficulties with their crochet, just to give them a few tips as to where they might be, where they can fix any challenges that they're having. Thank you ever so much. I know I've said thank you ever so much too many times. Happy hooking, and I will see you soon. Bye.